The late great comedian Tim Wilson told us that he said of Huddle House, if you're not quite good enough to be at Waffle House, you're at a Huddle House. And I guess if you're not quite good enough to shoot a Ruger, maybe you're shooting a High Point. Guys, welcome back to the channel. I don't think I've reviewed a High Point pistol. I've been a fan of these for years, as has James Reeves. I've always been happy to see the coverage that he gives them, and other people. There are some people who will say how terrible they are and make fun of them, which is fine. But there are a great many people who have come to acknowledge, oh, these things actually work. They're cheap, and no, they're not the best pistols on the market. Don't compare them to, don't compare them to a Glock. Don't compare them to a SIG P220 series, P210. Don't compare them to a Colt Gold Cup. But if you're comparing them to other pistols that are just simple and cheap and that work, well, these work. Their accuracy is usually okay. Even Uncle Paul reviewed one or two of these and had to conclude, yeah, if you're on a budget, this is pretty good. I want to thank Robert for making this one available. When it came to me, it had no magazine, but I scrounged around and I found C9 magazine. Apparently this one's a 380, as evidenced by this two-tone slide. The 9mm guns, pretty much all of them have plain black slides, but the 380s have this sort of, it's not really silver colored, but anyway, this lighter colored stripe on them. And it turns out, I thought, oh man, where am I going to get a 380 magazine? But it turns out apparently the same magazines are used for the 9mm and 380 models. This is a 10-round mag. You can get 8-round mags. They're inexpensive. If you need one, they're like 20 bucks. They're not expensive. They're not hard to get. And I've generally found that High Point factory mags are reliable. Kind of everything about these is reliable. They're plain, and they're not fancy, and they're kind of crude, but they do work. So again, if I've said this so many times on the channel, if you're on a budget, this is a pretty good choice. If you have $500 to spend, I'm going to say don't buy this. You can go get a Glock, you can go get a Ruger. There are a bunch of Smith & Wesson models. There are a bunch of pistols out there that are fine choices in that range. If you had $5,000 to spend, I might say, hey, go spend $500 on a pistol and the rest on ammo or whatever. But if you had $500 to spend on a pistol, I would say buy something nicer than this. Don't spend $200 on this and the rest on ammo. Maybe buy a $400 pistol and the rest on ammo. Because while this can serve, while this is okay, it's not great. But if you need something to get by for a while, it is inexpensive, it's accurate enough, it's sort of enough of everything you need. The big downside with High Points is that they are heavy. Because they're blowback operated, this slide has to be fairly heavy. Yes, there are other ways that you can make this work without building in a lot of slide mass, but that's kind of the simplest way to do it, to get a full power pistol to work with a blowback operated slide. This one has had quite a bit of material machined away or just never cast in, whatever. I don't know how they make these. But the top of the slide is skinnier than on the 9mm version. Been machined away here as well, because we want less mass for this in a 380 and a 9x17 than in a 9x19. Other than that, it's very similar in features to the C9. It's basically identical. It's got the same kind of sights and trigger and everything. This is just a little bit lighter, which does make it easier to carry. But it's still very heavy and very bulky for a 380. These are not very carry friendly. A pistol for home, makes more sense, but if you're carrying this around, boy, you're going to be sick of carrying this brick pretty quickly. Again, you'll want to upgrade as quickly as possible. You want to get away from this cheap pistol and get to something better. But for a while, this can be good enough. And if a while for you is maybe years and years, because to you, a couple $100 is a lot of money, well, it's not pleasant carrying this, but it's a whole lot better than nothing as far as I'm concerned. I'll probably do a video eventually on other cheap pistols, Jennings, Jimenez, Lorson, Bryco, those sorts of pistols. I will just say briefly that this beats all of them very handily. Those others are mostly terrible, and these are mostly pretty good. Another reason that we have so much material in the slide and it's so heavy is because this is made with very cheap material. It's not a high quality hardened steel, and so you need quite a bit of it to ensure sufficient strength. But for the most part, these are strong enough. Did see Garand Thumb break one. He threw it on a big boulder and he managed to crack the slide here and it broke. If you're not throwing yours against a boulder, it's probably going to be fine. If you're just carrying it and shooting it, you ought to be okay. But this one is 380. At the end of the video, I want to talk about this as a choice in 380 versus 9mm. I want to tell you why you should not choose 380. But this is the one that came to me to test. We're going to test it today and talk about it, and then we'll talk about this versus the C9 later. Once again, we're shooting at about 12 yards at our silhouette target. I've got 10 rounds of 380 here. The ammo is Federal American Eagle. I'll show you the box in a minute, but let's see how this pistol likes it. Go have a look at the target. Here's point of aim. Our hits in no particular order are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a decent group. I would like it to be at point of aim, but for a cheap pistol, bad trigger, I mean, that's good enough. That's fine. I'm going to make some adjustment to these sights. I usually wouldn't, but in this case, I'm going to make an exception, and I'm going to see if I can get that closer to point of aim. All right, I made a small sight adjustment. Let's try 5 more. Go have a look. All right, we're now hitting basically right at point of aim, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That, to my mind, is a very good group. I'd be happy with that out of a Glock or almost any pistol. So this pistol is capable of good accuracy, is capable of shooting to point of aim. I am kind of fighting this trigger. It's kind of spongy and but yeah, when I focus and concentrate, this pistol can shoot. So please tell me in the comments what's wrong with that. How is that not adequate for defense? That ought to be adequate for any defensive task you have. The question is, can you, under stress, deliver that kind of accuracy? Well, that's another question. But the pistol is capable of doing it. I got to say, when I was shooting this, I could feel the slide kind of rub against my hand. Is making a little bit of contact, not much. Also, I was aware that this slide, I was very aware of its cycling. The slide cycles kind of sluggishly because we've got a heavy slide and we don't have a lot of recoil or blowback or pressure, whatever you want to say, to deal with because it's a 380. We just don't have a lot of force acting on that slide. So it's slow. I can feel it and see it. Ka-clunk, ka-clunk. It's not hesitating, ka-chunk, the way like it's hesitating to feed. It's just slow. With some warmer 380, maybe some plus Ps, that would probably speed up. I've tried this American Eagle stuff before, and it seems to be on the low recoil. It seems to be kind of on the wimpy side. I've got a Model 42 Glock that won't cycle it reliably at all. Either an empty stays in the chamber or it'll eject and not pick up the next cartridge. That stuff is not cycling the slide hard enough to pick up cartridges, to get them all the way back and pick them up off the magazine. But yeah, clearly we have a good group. Clearly it's at point of aim. I'm gonna have a bunch of fouling at the muzzle now. It wasn't there before. Don't know if that shows up on camera. But this thing was spitting some powder fouling back toward my face. I could kind of feel it on my hands. Probably want to wear shooting glasses when you shoot this. But again, for a cheap pistol, this is not just good enough. This is really quite good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this. The sights are high vis, have this sort of orange or red paint on them, whatever. They're very easy to see. For cheap sights on a cheap pistol, they're easy to line up. They do feel like they're plastic. Yeah, I think they're plastic, which is not great, but you know, whatever. It's a cheap pistol. Most of these have a magazine safety, magazine disconnector. This one does not. It will fire without the magazine in place. I don't know if it predates the magazine safety. I imagine somebody removed or disabled the magazine safety, because some people will do that. We have a thumb safety here. Cover up the red for save. When the red shows, it's on fire. It's ready to go. I wouldn't trust this. If I were to carry this, I would carry it with an empty chamber. A lot of people would carry it cocked and locked, and maybe it's meant to be carried that way. I don't know. I don't really trust this mechanism. It is a cheap pistol. I would just draw and charge it on the draw. That would be my preference. If I kept it loaded at home, I might keep it on the nightstand or whatever. Just keep it on safe, always pointed in a safe direction, or in a bedside, one of those single pistol safes or whatever. But I might keep it in a place where I can draw it quickly and disengage the safety, and I wouldn't have to cycle the slide. But carrying it around, I wouldn't be crazy about keeping a loaded chamber. The frame is plastic, and it's a little bit slippery. It's a plastic frame in here with two plastic panels screwed to the sides, because there are bits in here, moving parts that have to be covered and retained, what have you. So that's just a way to access them. As I said, this is a 10-round magazine, but shorter 8-round mags are available, and that's what I'd probably want if I were, well, I guess if I were keeping this pistol at home, I might put the 10-round magazine in it. But for carry, if I were to carry one, which I would prefer not to, I would carry it with the 8-round mag. We do have sights that are adjustable both for windage and elevation, and that was very useful because that helped me get on target. Let me show you the ammo. Our ammo is this Federal American Eagle 380 Auto 95 grain full metal jacket AE380AP. That's the index number. So if you're looking for the same stuff, you can find it. That ammo proved to be very accurate out of this pistol. I've gotten generally good results with it before. It is, like so much 380 ammo on the market, maybe a little on the anemic side. Cycles most pistols just fine, but occasionally you find one, and it cycled this one just fine. I was just aware of that slide moving. I could tell the slide was moving slowly, but it still functioned reliably. It recocked every time. It picked up a new cartridge every time. There was no problem. It works. But I have seen pistols that didn't cycle with ammo like that. Not just that load, but also similar loads from Winchester, Remington, from a lot of the big factories. Those guys seem to load that ammo down to fairly low recoil, which can be great, but the result is that there are a few pistols that aren't happy with it. They want something a little bit warmer. If you're looking for warmer 380 ammo, I've had good luck with Privy Partisan with the PPU stuff. That stuff is pretty warm without being plus P, and it seems to cycle everything. Let's talk about this pistol as a choice in 380. Now, I can tell you, I was very aware when I was shooting, because I've just been shooting 9 Luger today, oh, this is actually quieter. And without hearing protection, maybe I couldn't tell the difference. It'd all be super loud. But like if you're worried about preserving your hearing in a defensive shooting, I can tell that this is quieter. If you're shooting on an indoor range or something like that where the sound gets reflected back to you, and even with hearing protection, it's unpleasant, this can be quieter. So, and of course for suppressors, it's much quieter. So that might be a reason to choose 380, because you're worried about the noise. I don't think that's a great reason to choose 380, but it's a consideration. It's something you might keep in mind. Why else would you choose 380? Well, I can tell you that recoil was a little bit lighter than I would generally get from a 9mm pistol. Generally, I would think anybody who could handle the recoil of this could handle the recoil of a C9 in 9mm Luger. And so there's not a great reason to choose this over 9 Luger. A lot of people sort of mistakenly think that 380 will have a lot less recoil. In some pistols it can. In this one, yes, there's a difference. I don't think it's a big enough difference to justify buying 380. But you have to decide for yourself how much recoil you're willing to tolerate. 380 is more expensive ammo than 9 Luger, and it's sometimes a little bit harder to find, although it's still pretty easy to find most of the time. If you're going to go to the range and shoot, which you should, if you're going to practice with your pistol, it's going to cost you more to do it with this than with the C9 version. And not only that, but you're getting less effective ammo. When it comes to defensive shooting, you're going to have ammo that just gives you less potency than 9 Luger. So almost every advantage goes to 9 Luger. It's more potent, it's less expensive, it's more available. If maybe you had a carbine in 380 and you needed a companion pistol, for some reason you've already got that carbine, you can't get rid of it or not easily, can't replace it, and you needed a companion pistol in the same chambering, okay, this one might make some kind of sense, except that carbines in 380 are not common at all. They're very unusual. So again, that kind of takes us back to square one. Why would you choose this? I'm going to say that the noise is probably not a great reason to choose this. I'm going to say the recoil is not a great reason to choose this. If we were suppressing it and we wanted it to be really quiet, okay, that might make some kind of sense, except this is not threaded for a suppressor. So once again, 380 doesn't make a lot of sense. If you've got a whole bunch of 380 ammo that somebody gave you or that you've otherwise acquired, it's sort of grandfathered in, and you can't afford to go buy a bunch of 9 Luger, but you can afford to shoot your 380 and you need a cheap pistol to shoot it, okay, this one might make sense, except who's in that position? Who inherited cases and cases of 380? There may be somebody out there, but that to me does not make a whole lot of sense. You might be better off just selling some of that 380 ammo or all of it and buying yourself a 9mm pistol and maybe something better than this. If you worked for a police agency or security company or something like that would issue you 380 ammo, they'll give you an allotment, an allowance of 100 or 200 rounds a month, and you can shoot it through your personal pistol, but you have to shoot their ammo. Okay, if you're looking for an inexpensive pistol to shoot that stuff, again, maybe this one, but who's in that position? Police agencies don't typically issue 380 anymore, not in this country, not in most countries. Again, there can't be very many people who are in that situation. I can't tell for whom this is made. This does not seem to fit a niche that needs to be filled, as far as I'm concerned. I would just go with the C9 version. Unless you're one of those very few people who have some kind of really special need for this, I can't see a reason to buy this. It does work. It does shoot reliably. If this is all you had, this is good enough. This is fine. But when the C9 is about the same money, if you were going to buy one or the other, well, duh, just buy the C9. Just buy the 9mm version. It's going to cost you less for ammo. That's one of the biggest advantages. I'm just not seeing a strong market for this, to be blunt. I'm not knocking the pistol because it does work. We've seen that it's reliable, it shoots good groups, it's got a lot going for it. But again, when the C9 exists, when the 9mm version of this exists, I don't see any reason to buy this. Oh, I will say that this is a little bit lighter, so if you needed a pistol for carry, and if the 9mm is just too heavy, this might save you a few ounces. Maybe this would be the difference between carrying and not. Program compliance, as Uncle Paul would say. If this would be the difference between I have a pistol with me when I need it and I don't, okay, then this is an obvious good choice for you. But if you're willing to carry the C9, or if you can buy something that's more expensive, that's lighter, a Ruger or who knows what, again, this doesn't have much of a niche. I guess that's the biggest niche it could fill. Somebody who needs a carry pistol, or who maybe doesn't have a lot of strength and has trouble lifting or aiming a C9 very well, and this is not a lot lighter, but it's just enough lighter that person can handle it more effectively. Maybe then this has a place in the world. But barring that, I'm just not seeing much of a niche that this could fill. The good news is it does work. So if you needed to fill that niche, it probably will. Reliable, accurate enough. I've never gotten that accuracy out of a high point. I've shot several high points over the years and never gotten one to shoot that close to point of aim and to shoot groups that good. I'm very, very pleased with how this shoots. I have no objection to that whatsoever. I just don't like the chambering. I would just rather have it in 9mm Luger. Well, guys, I think that's all I have to say about the 380 high point. If you are on a very tight budget, this could be your salvation. As soon as your budget loosens up, I would say replace this. Maybe don't even sell it necessarily. Keep it as a backup. A good, reliable pistol that's already paid for that you can just keep around in case you need it, need to loan one out, or your primary breaks or whatever. This could be good to keep in your safe just for a rainy day, just in case. But yeah, as soon as you can scrape together $300 or $400 and buy something better, I would. Buy a Ruger, buy a Glock, buy a Smith. Bunch of good choices out there. Mossberg, I reviewed a Mossberg just recently that gave really good results. Here it is if you're one of those few people who could really use this. The rest of you, go buy a C9 or better yet, buy something more expensive. Keep your powder dry.